The Tennessee Titans have suffered their worst loss of the season, according to us. I mean, point-wise, no, but just circumstance-wise, absolutely. Falling 10-6 at home to the Mac Jones-led Jacksonville Jaguars. What happens next for this team? Is this the end of the road for some coaching staff members, executives, players? We're going to dive into all that right now. This is the Music City Audible. Let's get to it. Oh, welcome everyone to a very depressing episode of the Music City Audible podcast presented by Broadway Sports Media in partnership with 440 Sports. I'm Justin Graver. With me, as always, is Justin Melo, who is opening and pouring a beer as we begin this podcast. Justin, Titans lose 10-6, fail to score a touchdown on the worst, if not one of the worst, if not the worst defenses in the NFL this season. Jacksonville looked like they had pretty much given up on doing anything else for the rest of this year, and here they come beating the Titans in Nashville. Final score 10-6, like I said. This was pretty much a disaster for the Titans. I mean, I thought things went wrong right from the beginning. They put an insanely awesome drive together where they run the ball 7 straight times, get deep into Jacksonville territory, and then fail to convert on a 3rd and short and decide to kick the field goal, like right off the bat. What are you doing, guys? This is makes no sense to me. You're moving the ball down the field so well. You got a chance to go throw the first big haymaker in this game, and you settle for the field goal. It just felt like that set the tone for what this team wanted to be. Are you with us, Justin, or are you just taking pictures of your beer back there? How are things?
I'm here. I was waiting for you to stop talking. I was taking pictures of the beer while you were talking. So.
I was talking through whatever you were doing, so we had a clear miscommunication there, almost like what the Titans seem to suffer on every play, it feels like sometimes. What do you think of this game?
What did I think of this game? It was good. No, I mean, what a disaster, right? And it's certainly the worst loss of the season. I'm glad you said it, because it's crazy because you think after going down 28-0 in Washington last week, minutes in the second quarter, that's the worst loss of the season. Or getting embarrassed by Malik Willis in Nashville, that's the worst loss of the season. No, this is worse. I mean, they now have the worst record in the NFL, correct me if... I guess no, technically no, sorry. The Raiders and the Giants are still 2-win teams. So, yeah. But they did allow Jacksonville to climb out of the hole of having the worst record in the NFL. This is insanely pathetic. I mean, 10-6 like, at home. Backup quarterback Mac Jones forget the whole quarterback situation in Jacksonville. Think about this Jacksonville defense. One of the worst in the league. I think 28 points per game, and you score 6 at home. I mean, just putrid, pathetic on all levels.
It's wild to me how we talked about the stretch that the Titans went on when they played a bunch of good teams in the Chargers and the Vikings and one other good defense. I can't remember now. And then they go back-to-back against Washington.
Chargers, Vikings, Texans.
Thank you. And then they go back-to-back against Washington and Jacksonville. And Washington's defense has been better of late, but still not a great defense. Jacksonville's defense has been horrible all season and trending towards getting worse by the week. And it's like the last 2 games are maybe the 2 worst offensive performances we've seen. Worst offensive, most offensive in terms of to our eyes. That they were very offensive to us. I don't know what to make of this team now. I mean, we were coming off of a stretch where we were like, hey, they're turning things around. Will Levis looks good. Brian Callahan is figuring things out. And now 2 weeks later, we're back to, should the Titans fire Brian Callahan? Like, that's how bad these last 2 weeks have been. And we say all this, they hold Jacksonville at 10 points. That's a good performance from the defense, playing against a backup quarterback with a team that doesn't have a lot of skill talent outside of rookie Brian Thomas Jr. with all the injuries they're dealing with to the receiving core. But you just have to wonder, like, how the offense cannot match the output of a Mac Jones-led Jags team is just, I don't know. I don't even know where to go from here, except to say this is embarrassing to the point that it might be so embarrassing that Amy Adams-Strunk just pulls the plug on the entire thing. I mean, this has been a disaster from basically the get-go this season, whether it's just beating yourself with horrible mistakes that give the other team points, or coming into a game looking wholly unprepared and getting run out of the run off the field in the first quarter, to this game where, again, it's like weird decisions, weird play calling that just seems to stunt your offense, coupled with all the penalties, all the self-inflicted wounds, the tackles, having multiple plays a game where they are beat immediately and don't even give anyone a chance. You don't give Will Levis or anybody on the offense a chance to like make up. Like, if you miss a block here and there, there are ways to overcome that as an offense. But when you miss a crucial edge block within a second of the ball being snapped, sometimes there's nothing you can do. And Peter Skoronski had a missed block in the run game that led to Pollard getting blown up in the backfield. And it was like just this constant slew of mistakes that really make you wonder what the Titans need to see from Brian Callahan to have any confidence going forward that he can lead this team out of this disaster mess they're currently in.
Well, I don't even know where to start with everything you just said.
I don't know where I'm just like, this is an instant reaction, and I'm like trying to gather my thoughts, but I seriously don't even know what to make of this team at this point, other than to say, reset. Just reset it all because it sucks. This product sucks. Sorry for cutting you off. Go ahead.
This podcast is here to offer nuance, and if you don't want to just come here and normally I do a great job of just complaining and crying on here and stuff. But if we want to offer nuance, I think this game was probably lost on the red zone offense. Right?
Oh, yeah,
two chances down there. And it was a combination, I thought, of poor play calling and poor execution. I think both of those things could be true. On the first one, which was the four down goal to go, if you will, they 3 straight passes, right? Second, third, and fourth. I think the issue that I have with that whole sequence is you're running the ball pretty well all afternoon, right? I mean, like you said, you actually said they started with 7 straight runs. I think it was actually 8 they started with, because the commentator had said 7 straight runs, and then it was a Tony Pollard carry on the next one. So 8 straight runs they start this game, and Tony Pollard's running well. No surprise, Jacksonville's defense is soft. You get into that situation, you pass on second down. Okay, I don't hate it yet.
Right.
It's too early to say I hate it. Then you pass again on third down, and where my mind's going then, and maybe I'm too fair. No one ever thinks I'm fair, but maybe I'm too fair, but I'm going, okay, it's third and goal. You got to pass on third and goal, right?
That's fine, yeah.
Right? But then they go for it on fourth. And now this is where I really, really, really have a problem with the decision-making, because number one, now that I've got all the information available to me, and as the head coach, you've got most of the information available to you, right? Yes, of course, you could get a penalty, get backed up, and change your line of thinking. But I think you've made that decision already that you're going if we're not getting backed up by a penalty, right? So if you know you're going, that tells me, wow, I really could have ran the ball on second for sure. And you know what? You want to forgive one error in judgment because we're human. But now I'm thinking, well, I definitely could have ran it on third if I knew I'm going on fourth. I could have ran it on at least one of them, maybe both of them, if I think I'm. And then on fourth, you bring in Jeffrey Simmons, and they were on the 2. Okay, maybe I'm kind of grasping at straws here or being too judgmental. But if I'm bringing in Jeffrey Simmons, I'm like inside the 1. Well, you know what I mean? Like,
wait, let me add to that point, because I think it's a great point that you bring this up. But the cherry on top of it is that you didn't run on second and third down. So what is Jeffrey Simmons like? You have told the defense essentially that we are fine, absolutely fine throwing this ball. We trust the team enough to throw it on second and third down. You bring in Jeffrey Simmons for that look. It's because you're trying to convince the defense that this is a run, and you're going to fake that run. And the announcers even said it. Jeffrey Simmons was the first read on that play. It's one of those like extra offensive lineman / fullback / like fake the block and then leak out and turn around and catch the wide open touchdown because the defense isn't accounting for you because you're not a skill player. But that doesn't work as well. That works when you've run it on first and second and third down, and the defense is like, okay, they want to muscle their way in here. Now they're bringing in Jeffrey Simmons to get extra muscle on the field, and then you hit them with the, oh, nope, we're actually passing it. But when you pass it on second, it's just like there's no cohesion to the play calling, and maybe this is, Brian Callahan is a first-time play caller, and that's where the whole debate comes back down for me is like, do you give this guy who has had good moments as a play caller and has had good moments with the offense, but has also had disastrous moments, do you give him just like a grace period to sort of figure it out and hope that he gets better next year? Or do you look at this and say, look, this lack of cohesion is hampering the offense greatly, and it's your fault, head coach, because you didn't call a cohesive game plan. You didn't have them ready to play or whatever. And now you're like, we got to move on. Like you can go be an offensive coordinator for another franchise and you'll probably do a dang good job at it. But you're just simply at this point in your career, not ready to be a head coach. And that's sort of, I think, where I'm at with Brian Callahan is that this hire, the process was good. I thought the interview process was good. Everything that we heard and learned about Brian Callahan back in March, February, whatever, seemed great. But then you get to the point of the game and it just feels like he's in over his head. He's overwhelmed by all the responsibility, and he's frankly probably just not quite ready to be a head coach. And he's on a staff surrounded by inexperienced guys at the highest level on the staff. None of them have had experience doing what they're doing. And a lot of times you see a first-year head coach go out and hire a defensive coordinator with 30 years of coordinating experience, right? So you have that balance. But the Titans didn't do that. And you're seeing the results of it, I think, with this disastrous season. Because football really is a game of margins and inches, and you hear that all the time. But like, one or two plays can swing the outcome of a game. And the difference between being a very inexperienced staff and having guys on the staff that know what they're doing can swing those plays, and it can take your season from whatever they are, 3-10 to 7-4 or whatever.
Couple things I want to add. First of all, I don't want to gloss over, because I said it earlier, a marriage of play calling and execution.
Yes, sorry.
With everything we just complained about, Will Levis should have seen Chig open on that fourth down play. Jeffrey Simmons is the first read. Jacksonville's not fooled at all. Does a good job coming off it. And he goes to Josh Wiley, who's in the back of the end zone, pretty well covered. And Chig is running underneath that, right in the same area, wide open.
Yeah.
I don't like we said it earlier with the interception, right, where he's allowed to see it. Like, in the Miami game, I don't know how he looks at Josh Wiley and doesn't accidentally go, oh shit, look at Chig. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know how he doesn't see Chig in that situation, and it's a touchdown.
Yeah.
And they probably win the game, and we're not complaining as much about the red zone offense and the play calling and the failures down there, yada yada. So it is a marriage of play calling and execution that led to that disastrous failure, in my opinion. On the coaching staff, you bring up some good points, but he does have his father in Bill Callahan.
He does have his father.
Former head coach. He's got a lot of experience, and a lot of these other guys. Frank Bush has been around a long time. Chris Harris is a young guy, up and comer, but Steve Jackson. I think there was another assistant there. I can't recall who, a defensive assistant that's been around quite a while. So he's got some guys. But you bring up a point, because there are a lot of these guys. Like, remember when Sean McVay got with the Rams, he hired Wade Phillips.
Right.
I noticed the other day when Zach Taylor got to the Bengals and Callahan was there, and that first year was so disastrous, and a bit of a weird move that probably paid off. The next year, they made their special teams coordinator an assistant head coach. And he still carries both titles. And that was a very experienced coach. He's still there in Cincinnati as the special teams coordinator and assistant head coach. I'm pretty sure Matt LaFleur had a pretty good experience DC when he first got to Green Bay. The name escapes me now. Arthur Smith, Atlanta, didn't work out, whatever, but he brought Dean Pease out of retirement to be his DC, right? So you do see a lot of these young guys bring a lot of experience with them. Callahan didn't do that from a coordinator perspective.
Right, that's what I meant.
He does have a lot of other experience throughout the staff. That should be helping, right? Like, I'm sure his father is trying to help a lot, you would think. But this thing it's pretty disastrous, right? There's not a whole lot to say. I mean, on the Will Levis discourse, I thought he played pretty well again today. For the most part, yeah, I know you score 6 points. Maybe our expectations are too low. But I thought from a quarterbacky perspective, I thought he played pretty well. But again, the difference of not seeing Chig there is maybe why you lose the game. And football's a game of inches. It's one play, right? That's
one reason you lose the game. But fast forward a lot after the defense gives up just an absolute backbreaking drive to allow the touchdown that gives Jacksonville the lead. After they had done a great job holding the Jacksonville offense in situations, not just to 3-and-outs or to interceptions, which they forced 2 of, but to the fourth down stop, and then or the fourth down that you allow them to convert, and then you stop them on the next series of plays, and you force that field goal. Like, they had done a good job up to that point, but then, as we've seen so many times this year, when the offense fails to support the defense for so long, and the defense has done their job for 3 quarters plus, you get into that fourth quarter and the offense still hasn't come alive. The defense finally breaks and allows the touchdown, but it's not over yet. The Titans have a chance to go down and get a game-winning touchdown with plenty of time to do so, and they have to punt the ball away, but it's still not over. They don't punt the ball away. Sorry, they turn it over on downs. And it's still not over because they still have another chance to get the ball back. But that drive where they turn it over on downs, where they get the ball, they have plenty of time. They definitely go down and get a touchdown because they're down 10-6. And Calvin Ridley catches the ball on 3rd and 5 in the red zone and runs directly out of bounds. Like, what are we doing? There's just no situational awareness on this team by any player on the team. Like, what the hell are we doing? And Levis maybe should have got that ball to him a little bit sooner. But this is what we're talking about last week. Our title of our episode was Will Levis needs more help. Like, you got to make that play, Calvin Ridley. You got to get the first down there. And then the very next play, Do I love that they take an end zone shot when they have plenty of time and it's 4th and 2 and you don't need to go to the end zone? No, I don't love that. But guess what? Nick Westbrook-Akina had the leverage, goes up and gets both hands on the ball. Is the throw a little bit high? Yes, it's a little bit high. You'd prefer your quarterback to make a slightly, and I emphasize slightly better throw there. But overall, it wasn't a terrible throw. Hits Nick Westbrook in both his hands and squirts through like a wet bar of soap, and you essentially lose the game. But it's not over yet. You do get another drive, and that drive goes nowhere. You turn it over in 4 downs on 4th and 10, and you gain 0 yards on your final attempt. 4th and 15
because he had a false start.
4th and 15 because, again, the offense shoots themselves in the foot with a horrible penalty. This team leads the league in penalties per game. It's just disaster. It's so many disaster. Can we talk about the end of the half? 1 second left in the half, and J.C. Latham gets absolutely annihilated. Okay, go ahead. Sorry, you should come. I'm just like rambling because I'm just so overreactionary right now. But
the last thing I want to say is on the end of UI one, I think, again, a bit of a mixture of play calling and execution because, Callahan can't force Levis to take something, just at the sticks, but they don't have to go to the end zone on 4th and 2, I think is worth noting. And yes, it was catchable. I think you agree with me. I wouldn't necessarily consider it a drop, though, right? Like, it was a tough catch.
I consider it a drop.
Okay.
I consider it a drop.
I thought it was a tough catch. He could have, should have, would have made it. But I'm not like, holy shit, I can't believe he didn't catch it, right? He had to leap forward. He had a defender in the area that I think kind of hit him on it or hit him after. But I didn't think it was a blatant drop. I mean,
he got both hands on it.
With it. Absolutely.
He got both hands on it. And in the NFL as a receiver, if you get both hands on it, like you just got to make a play for your quarterback at some point. And it felt like nobody did that at any point in this game. Go ahead.
You want to talk about disasters after the game. Brian Callahan actually started his presser with a lot of positive things today.
Yeah.
I don't know how you get up there and say that, a 10-6 loss at home to the worst team in the NFL with their backup quarterback. Jeffrey Simmons, by the way, players usually not in the business of throwing teammates under the bus. But Paul Kaharski tweeted, Jeffrey Simmons expresses frustration and a lot. Among the issues he said he's tired of was seeing the Titans quarterback get his block knocked off. Clearly calling out the offensive line, as he should. I mean, the tackles were terrible today, both J.C. Latham and NPF.
Yeah, agreed. And that leads us to the end of the first half play where J.C. Latham gets absolutely obliterated by Josh Hines-Allen, and Will Levis gets even more obliterated. It re-injures the shoulder that he missed time for earlier this season, his right throwing shoulder. Toughs out the rest of the game. Didn't really show any ill effects of it, but you could tell he was hurting, especially walking off the field at halftime, just clutching at that right shoulder. And it's just like, the Jags didn't blitz on that play. They rushed 3 or 4, I can't remember exactly, but it was a pretty standard rush. They have so many guys back to try to defend a potential Hail Mary attempt, and you give up a sack. Like, not even like a Will Levis is running around trying to buy time and launch a Hail Mary sack. It's like Will Levis doesn't even have time to hit the top of his drop, and he's already being sacked. Like, I'm over it. I'm over this product. And I still can't fathom how the offense looked so much better for 3 weeks against really good defenses, and then they come out against Washington and Jacksonville and look like a high school offense, especially this game against Jacksonville. And that's why I'm back to the Brian Callahan thing. It's like, did he think this was going to be an easier matchup? Like, obviously I'm getting into heavy speculation here, but they clearly are not prepared to come out and kick a team's ass that, even though the Titans are a bad team, we said this on the preview show earlier in the week. The Titans are a bad team. We know they're a bad team. There's still no excuses not to go win this game. And I guess the next question is, does somebody get fired for this? Does it happen this week? Or is this just another little note that Rand Carthon makes and takes to Amy Adams-Strunk and says, look, Amy, keep me. Don't lose me, Amy. Because there is a world where Amy just resets the whole operation.
Yeah, I'm torn because number one, if someone gets fired, it seems like it would be optics, right? Because I don't think you're not firing Brian Callahan after this game. You're not firing Denard Wilson after this game. I'd be pretty surprised if they fire Nick Holtz after this game. So the only candidate is Colt Anderson. And special teams wasn't, I mean, they didn't have a blocked punt or a disaster. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it would just be a timing thing. It'd be weird timing. Why the fuck didn't you fire him 10 weeks ago when there was actual disasters on special teams, right? Like, they weren't good on special teams. I don't want that to get away. They had an illegal formation penalty on the first attempt of punt return of the day. They had it was an offsetting penalty, but they had a block in the back.
Yeah.
Tajay Spears took the first kick return out of the end zone. Colt Anderson had an exchange with him on the sideline after.
Yeah.
Like, they weren't good on special teams today, but they avoided the disasters.
And they didn't give up
I don't know who you're firing.
They didn't give
like,
up a 30-yard return, which has been like the big issue on special teams all year.
They didn't soil their pants on special teams today. So it'd be weird to fire Colt Anderson now. It'd be very clearly just someone's got to be fired. So I don't think they're going to fire anyone. It would be weird. On the whole Amy thing, I'm torn because I think she's a rash decision maker for sure. Like, I think we know that, and we've seen some of it. So it's a possibility she goes in a different direction. She'd end up with big time egg on her face. The amount of confidence she expressed in this Rand Callahan, Rand Callahan, this Rand Carthon. The beer's getting to me already. It is 8% in my defense, but the Brian Callahan, Rand Carthon partnership, the confidence she expressed in them, she'd end up with major egg on her face if she pulls the rug up underneath them this quickly. So back to what I was saying there, but I'm torn because I do think she's a rash decision maker. So that puts it within the realm of possibility. But I also think she's still paying Mike Vrabel. Right? Yep. Does she want to pay Vrabel, Callahan, and a third head coach while fronting up a decent amount of change to build a new stadium? Like, no. So I lean towards they're not gonna fire this administration after this year. But you sure as shit wouldn't hear any complaints from me. This is a poorly coached football team and just a really pathetic organization right now.
I agree. Any other thoughts on the game? Should we praise them a little bit for forcing 2 nice interceptions? Chido Awuzie comes back from injury, first game back this season, and picks off Mac Jones on their first possession. Otis Reese, I thought, played very well, actually. Had his first career interception.
Can you get into I'll drink to that?
Well, I was going to drink to something else, but yes, we can drink. We can start drinking.
You can drink to something else. I'm drinking the Otis
You're
Reese.
Already drinking. Here we go. I'll drink to that. Presented by Sinkers Beverages in East Nashville. Justin, tell me what you're drinking to.
I've always been a big Otis Reese guy. He was outstanding today. I think he had a tackle for loss where he was a misdirection play, not fooled, unlike the other Titans linebackers on this roster, not fooled by misdirection, makes a great TFL, comes up with a timely interception. Look, I'm not going to sit here and say Otis Reese should have been playing 5-6 weeks ago. They had a good thing going with Ernest Jones, and regardless of what you think of Kenneth Murray, they signed him to the deal. They were going to play him. Jack Gibbons came in and was playing really well. But after Gibbons goes down, Ernest Jones, yada, yada, the coaching staff, you're the ones evaluating. I don't know how Jerome Baker gets on this field before Otis Reese does. You and I have always liked Otis Reese. I hate being that guy because, there's always a player that never plays. And fans are like, why isn't that guy playing? We know better. But I do think Otis Reese is a better linebacker than Jerome Baker. Hell, you can't convince me. I think that you can't convince me Kenneth Murray's a better linebacker than Otis
Luke
Reese.
Gifford certainly isn't. And I know there's
Luke Gifford sure as shit isn't. I mean, by the way, concerning Cedric Gray can't get on the field yet. When Luke Gifford is out there, that's a whole other.
But they're also, I think, doing this thing where it's like, well, one guy's the Mike and one guy's the Sam and one guy's the Will. So we lost our Mike. So Otis Reese is more of a Will. So
what
he
do you
can't
think
go
of
play
that?
the Mike. I think it's absolute bullshit. I think it's excuse making at the highest level.
It doesn't exist in today's NFL.
If you think that is still how a linebacking core must be deployed, then you're doing it wrong. You have to be more amoebic as a defense to keep up with today's offenses.
Does anyone have a free safety and a strong safety anymore, or do they just have safeties?
Yeah, right. They have safeties.
You just have safeties. Do you have Mike backers and Will backers and Sam backer, blah, 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 or do you just have off-ball backers?
In base defense, on 1st and 10, maybe you have a Sam and you have a Mike. But on third downs and passing downs and even second downs and once you get into the flow of a game, you just need your best 11 guys on the field. I don't care how specific you are to their position. Just get your best 11 out there. And the Titans haven't been doing that. So look, we gave Denard Wilson a 10 out of 10 confidence level. That's come down significantly for me in the last 2 games. And part of it is the deployment of personnel, and part of it is Washington putting up 28 points on 4 drives to start that game, 5 drives to start that game. But yeah.
Denard Wilson's still the least of my concerns.
I agree.
On this
I agree.
staff.
I agree.
You know what I mean? Who gives a shit?
But it's just another point to if we lose him because you have to fire Brian Callahan, it's he did a good job, but it's not it's not worth.
Yeah, you're not freaking. Yeah,
right.
Exactly. I agree. You're not keeping Brian Callahan so you can keep Denard Wilson.
Right.
The last thing I want to make on that point is Well, you think these guys are always, they know what they're doing. They're making the best decisions. They assess practice. I mean, there's also the same guys that openly chose to play Treylon Burks ahead of Nick Westbrook-Akine. Right? I mean, one of them's got 7 or 8 touchdown catches this year. The other one doesn't even look like, in all honesty, like I don't think it's overstating to say Treylon Burks isn't even an NFL player. Like I don't think Treylon Burks is an NFL caliber wide receiver.
Right.
At this point, he might be a receiver 5 or 6. I think he's very much a fringe.
But he's not because he's not because a receiver 5 or 6 right now in the NFL, the way roster construction has to work is you're either a key special teams player, you're a returner, or you're like a quick little gadget dude who can take an end around 60 yards to the house. You're not a 6'2", whatever Treylon Burks is.
That can't catch.
Exactly. You're not an NFL
terrible.
receiver at that point. You're a practice squad guy who gets called up if somebody gets hurt or if 5 people get hurt.
And they played him ahead of Nick Westbrook earlier in the year. So don't tell me that they know what they're doing. And Jerome Baker should have been playing ahead of Otis Reese and yada, yada. But anyway, Otis Reese couldn't save them today. He tried, but he couldn't. But that's how bad they are. I mean, I've got nothing else. This is a pathetic football team, 3-10, losing at home 10-6. It's mind-boggling. There's no excuse for it. A backup quarterback, one of the worst defenses in the NFL. You score 6 points. This thing is going nowhere fast. And, I've been biting my tongue a lot of this year. I think our listeners and viewers are smart enough to see it. Most of you know I'm a pro Vrabel guy, but it's just getting harder and harder to understand the direction that they went in. And I think there's a chance 10, 15 years from now, we could look back at this as being a historically poor decision. And I know they're independent of each other. They could have fired Vrabel and hired a phenomenal head coach. They could have traded A.J. Brown and drafted a phenomenal wide receiver in his place, right? I don't think that's the way this thing is trending.
Yeah, I totally agree. But I have to give my Al drink to that. And my Al drink to that is that the Titans have moved up to number 6 in the draft order, according to Tankathon. According to Tankathon right now, as we sit here recording in the middle of Sunday still, the Jags still pick ahead of the Titans at 5, even though they just beat the Titans head-to-head, because there are so many 3-10 teams that you have to go to strength of schedule tiebreaker, and the Titans have played the 3rd easiest strength of schedule out of all of the 3-10 teams, or the 4th easiest out of all, whatever. They're 4th. They're picking 4th behind. They're behind 3 other 3-10 teams. But they've come up to 6. So that's what I'm drinking to in this one. And they continue to lose. They might continue to move up.
Not worth it. Losing to Jacksonville like that. I thought they were going to be up at like 3. Not worth it.
Yeah, I know.
Not worth the embarrassment they just endured.
Sorry. I agree with that. And what I will say, though, on that topic is that after last night watching Penn State, Oregon, I'm kind of all in on Drew Aller. Is that, am I allowed to be that now?
I would feel that way if I believed in the infrastructure of this organization.
Agreed. Don't draft a quarterback if you don't fire Brian Callahan. 100%. Callahan and Levis, to me, are tied together now. Like, if you keep one, you keep both. If you fire one, you get rid of the other. But anyway, let's close this out by talking about Will Levis. After I say, I'll drink to that. Brought to you by Sinkers Beverages, the premier wine, spirits, and beer store in East Nashville. Serving the community since 1985. Their knowledgeable staff is proud to help you with large parties, themed events, or finding something unique for a special occasion. From birthday parties to milestone celebrations to everyday moments, Sinkers can help with the right drink for every occasion. If you head to the sinkersbeverages.com website or check the link in this podcast description, you can join the In-Crowd. In-Crowd members get access to allocated wines and spirits, exclusive events, early access to barrel releases, and more. Plus, Sinkers Beverages is on Uber Eats. All right, Justin, final thing we're going to close out this pod with here. Will Levis finishes 19 of 32, 168 yards. No touchdowns, no interceptions. Only takes 2 sacks for 22 yards. I think this was an okay game from Will Levis. I think this is 5 straight pretty decent games. Now, he didn't get a lot of help in this one. We mentioned that. He didn't have the kind of drop problems that we saw last week, and he definitely missed a few plays. I think the Calvin Ridley running out of bounds play was on both of them. It wasn't just on Ridley for not having awareness. Like, Will Levis has got to get that ball to him quicker. Nick Westbrook-Akine should have caught that touchdown, but Will Levis also should give him a little better ball. He's got to see Chigakonkwo wide open in the end zone, but he also made a bunch of nice throws in this game. I mean, a bunch of nice throws, like high-level quarterbacking throws. And again, we're looking...
decision-making, too.
And decision-making, too. Yeah, some of the check downs to pick up first downs instead of being overly aggressive, especially early on. Like, we are seeing the progress that we wanted to see. And we've been seeing it in the decision-making process for a few weeks now. Over the last 2 weeks especially, we're seeing it in the sack department. Okay? This is a real tangible improvement because the offensive line was getting destroyed today, and he was under a lot of pressure a lot of the time. And to come out of this game only taking 2 sacks, I think that's tremendous growth.
And no interceptions.
And no turnovers at all. Like, it would be nice to see him lead a game-winning drive at some point because he's had opportunities here this season and he hasn't led a single one. Like when you're already behind and you go win the game with a game-winning drive. Be nice to see that. Could have seen it today, but they didn't pull it off. That's the next step. We've seen a lot of improvement, and if the sack numbers continue to be low for the rest of this year, and we just see a couple game-winning drives and like the clutch gene moments and like the elevating a big moment spot type of moment, then I can start to really buy into Will Levis coming back next year as the starter.
Yeah, the last thing I'm going to say is I agree with everything you said. Don't want to sound like I'm harsh on him, but it is a game of margins. He's got to hit Jig for the touchdown. They win this game. We avoid having to do this disastrous episode. So it's the little things, right? And you got to do the little things right all the time, almost all the time. He missed a big one today. Probably cost them the game, or partially cost them the game because they could still get a stop at the end. They could still put together a game-winning drive later and all that, yada, yada. But ultimately, the other thing I will add, it may be a depressing thing to say, but if you don't like the way he played or you're against us, it doesn't change the options they have to replace him, right? And the options they have are still extremely lackluster from a draft and free agency perspective, as we currently see. So the way he played today, I still strongly lean towards he's the guy in 2025.
Yeah, I agree. Unless Drew Aller is available. But, I mean, I don't know what I'm talking about. This is off one game. But it was against a really good Oregon team. Anyway, that'll do it. Any final thoughts? I think those were the final thoughts. Let's close it out.
I'm going to finish the beer off air. It's very good.
Oh, yeah, you are.
They should sponsor us. They won't because they're from here in Toronto. It'd make no sense. But Big Mac. Shout out to Blood Brothers. Great brewery. Phenomenal beer.
Shout out to McDonald's, too. All right. That'll do it. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in. Thanks even more if you're watching on YouTube. We appreciate you. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. Leave a comment below. Any comment away. Comment your hearts out. Do you agree that the Brian Callahan experiment might have run its course, or do you think he just needs a little more time with a more healthy roster because they've been very injured? Does he get a chance to take an off season and self-assess and be like, okay, here's where I sucked, here's where I did okay, how can I be better next year, and how can the whole team be better? Or is it over for him? You let us know what you think in the comments below. We'll be back later this week with another special guest talking about something big picture, because there's absolutely no point in previewing Titans-Bengals, even though there are some intriguing storylines, obviously, with Brian Callahan, Tyler Boyd coming from Cincinnati, yada, yada, yada. All right, Justin, sign us off.
You guys stay safe out there and
Titan down.
A Broadway sports media production.